Hey guys, what's up? It's me, Thomas. Today we're back here with Phantomstrider, and today we got 10 polite habits that are actually secretly hated. So I'm guessing these are like habits that are okay in one place in the world, but others not so much. I actually do know, I think it was either China or Japan that normally here, if you eat everything on your plate, you're good, but over there, that means pitiful amount. So I think you're supposed to be leaving a little bit of food in. Like I said, I can't remember if it was either China or Japan, but maybe that or Korea, I don't know. I know it's in the Far East, but I just don't remember where. So let's check out the habits and just make sure to take some notes if you're ever traveling there. So let's check it out.
Howdy. You know, it's respectable when a person is trying to be polite to others. But have you ever had that friend that did that seemingly polite habit that actually really annoyed you? They probably did it with the best of intentions, but you couldn't help it. It just kind of grated on you. Well, let's look at those habits that your friend or acquaintance might not actually realize are very annoying to many people. These are the 10 polite habits that are secretly disliked. And of course, big disclaimer, I'm basing these off public opinion, polls, and articles. Obviously, what each person likes is deeply subjective. So if your family or friends personally like these habits, you go on ahead and keep doing them, and don't mind me. With that said, let's begin. Number 10.
Police! Freeze!
The kissing of the cheek. It was normal, particularly before the pandemic, for greetings to get a little physical. Well, at least in the Western world anyway. In the East, many hellos begin and end with a bow. But in the West, a handshake is still fairly normal. So is a hug.
I think it was European. It was
you see the kissing of someone's cheek or the kissing of the air by the ear, which I've never understood, but anyway. But even before 2020, some people didn't appreciate some of these polite greetings. Meet Julia. She's our trained etiquette coach for this episode. Hi, Julia.
Hi. For some people, kissing and hugging can be an invasion of their personal space, and not as polite as we might be led to believe.
That being said, I'm sure there's people walking down the street who wouldn't mind if you
better just stick with the handshake.
Julia's recommendation is this.
Unless you're greeting a close friend or family, skip the kisses and simply say hello. Adding a warm smile and a friendly nod convey the same feeling as a hug.
Personally though, when it comes to hugs, I don't completely agree with Julia. I think there are times where a hug can be exactly what a person needs, even a stranger. Not often a complete stranger, but I do remember this fellow at a convention who dressed as Spider-Man, and he was offering free hugs from Spider-Man to whoever asked for one. And I saw the amount of smiles he brought that day, including me. Some of the men, women, and kids loved it. So I think a consensual hug is perfectly fine and healthy. Maybe not as an unexpected greeting to an acquaintance, but if someone wants a hug, you give them a damn hug. When it comes to greeting people with a kiss though, I agree with Julia. Keep it to close friends, if you're both into that. And for number 9, showing up to work or events sick. It's funny how times change, isn't it? Because arguably, this is the rudest polite thing on this list. But there was a time where people were seen as tough or dedicated if they showed up to a work or an event sick, while cancelling or calling in sick was seen as weak or quote-unquote rude. Oh, he's pulling a sickie, he's so lazy. In reality nowadays, it is so much the opposite. Let's take sick Frank. Hi, Frank.
Hello.
Frank may have caught a cold over the weekend, but he's taking some medication and isn't cancelling his Friday plans with friends. He's too tough for that. He's not calling in sick to work either, because he thinks the company might fall apart without him. So that week, he's at work sick every day. Next week, half his work team is off sick, and his 2 friends he went out with are sniffling and coughing in bed. Clearly, Frank did the polite thing. Frank may have been trying to be polite, but it wasn't very nice what he unintentionally did to everyone. So obviously, when you break it down like this, it seems obvious Frank's mistake. There's few things that can be less polite than showing up sick and silently giving someone else a virus, and getting them miserably sick and sniffling and blowing through tissues for a week, or worse. And even if they don't catch Frank's virus, they may feel deeply uncomfortable around Frank, or have the urge to quietly avoid someone who could silently make them sick. So Frank, no offense, but we'd appreciate it if you just stayed home this week.
But the business will fall apart without me. and my friends will think I'm bailing on them.
Trust me, Frank, if there's one
Yeah.
silver lining that actually came from 2020, it is now very socially acceptable for you to call in sick when you are genuinely sick.
True.
Casual workers may have no sick leave at all, and they may just get paid nothing if they don't come into work. And in that situation, I get it, it's a tough call. There's not always an easy answer, unfortunately, and I get that. But hopefully, when you're sick, you're at least able to stay home and get better.
Yeah, honestly, that's what I almost did. Like, I was having a sore throat, like, back when I was, when I got back from, like, my Cincinnati trip. I wasn't feeling that hot, and I still went to work, but as soon as I was on my way to work, and the next day after I learned that, yep, I have COVID, so I had to pull over to, like, the restaurant, and don't worry, didn't get in. I just stayed home. Or I just stayed in the car, told the work, be like, yeah, turns out I got COVID, so what's the call? So, and they told me to go home and just see what to go from there. You know? So yeah, basically nowadays, if you're sick, just stay home. Don't spread it. You know? If there's anything learned from COVID, it's okay to stay home. You know? Take care of yourself. Don't put others at risk. I mean, it's crazy that it took a global pandemic to get through that in the workforce, doesn't it? I mean, who knows? Maybe another one would help us get a better pay rate. Okay, I'm gonna stop before I jinx myself. Let's move on.
Number 8.
Next.
Tagging people on social media. Speaking personally,
Wait, really?
I don't mind this habit.
That's bad?
But I've definitely known a lot
to
of
be
people
fair, I
that
don't
do.
do social
And if
media
they're tagged
often.
on social media, they'll often immediately delete them. Admittedly, this was a bigger thing in the 2010s than the 2020s. But back in the day, every single person and their dog would upload every picture they took onto social media like Facebook. And they'd tag all
I
their
think that's
friends
still
in their
nowadays.
pictures. And unless you'd turn notifications off, you'd be notified at every single one of these pictures. And notified whenever someone comments on a photo you're tagged in.
There's this feature called poking where you just go to someone's profile and you could poke the person. And like, what does that do? Nothing. It sends them a message. It's like, you've been poked.
For some extroverts, they love this.
Oh, yeah.
They get excited at all the people liking and commenting, and might even like and comment
poking.
back everyone's comments. And that's cool, but a lot of people did hate this habit. Family could be tagged, friends could be tagged, even professional acquaintances. It was just the norm at the time to tag every single one of them. It was deemed polite because they figured people might want to feel included and see the pictures they're in. But our etiquette friend Julia said, not so much.
People have differing comfort levels with their online presence and privacy, and they may not appreciate people sending digital "you are here" flags. Not just because of privacy, they might also not want to hurt other people's feelings, or they might dislike being the subject of comments.
Nowadays, I believe this is
Can't
less of an
attest,
issue
but
on
fair.
Facebook as people have to review any tags before they're approved and shown. But either way, if your friends want to show more politeness and consideration, they can always ask before they tag you.
True.
Number
true.
7.
7.
Fighting compliments from friends or loved ones. I've seen this
Fighting
one more than
compliments?
most
What
other
is that?
polite habits on this list. I've been responsible for doing this one too. Though it's more normal in Australia or England to be self-deprecating than in America. Have you ever had that friend or partner you'll say something nice to and they'll just rebuff it? For example,
That's a beautiful flower in your hat.
yeah, it's plastic, and I think it's too garish.
Gee, you've got a real thoughtful take on the price of eggs in China.
Yeah, hardly. I'm presumptuous and full of crap. Jeez, I'm annoyed at myself after hearing these. I'm sorry,
Okay.
doll.
Oh, it's alright, honey.
Now, in any of those responses, I could have simply said to Nin,
sometimes with
hey,
that.
thanks, love. I try. I don't have to like the compliment, but I do appreciate Nin thinking of me. I've even heard this joked about in
Fair.
Family Guy.
God, just take the damn compliment.
It's perfectly
You
okay
ain't
to
wrong.
not like compliments, but when friends constantly rebuff them, you probably know it can get annoying very quickly. That being said, it's generally best to avoid compliments to people we don't know well about physical appearance. They might be genuine and well-intentioned, but to some it can appear essentially motivated. That being
I think
said,
for me,
some people
I'm more like
certainly
a,
appreciate a physical
thanks.
compliment, particularly if that person's looking for attention. For example, honey, I think you look absolutely gorgeous in that striped shirt.
Oh, thanks, honey. It's my favourite.
But some people may be
Fair.
more wary of compliments. And speaking as someone who over the years has witnessed many eating disorders, I recommend staying right away from comments related to weight. Looking at the public
Yeah.
opinion of fighting compliments was interesting, as I got very mixed results. For example, Reddit gave me a lot of people basically saying compliments are hard to trust and that they struggle with self-confidence. Or they assume that anyone giving them a compliment is trying to sell them something. But outside of Reddit, I noticed a lot of self-help articles on people wondering why they react defensively to compliments. There can be many deep-seated reasons, such as a history of criticism, so try not to be mad at yourself if you do get a compliment rebuffed. I don't ever recommend being mad about it, but good on you for thinking of the person. And for number
True,
6,
true.
a seemingly obvious but common one. Apologizing for every little thing. Well, my apologies, because I do this all the time. See what I did there? So let's meet Apology Bill.
Makes sense.
He apologizes for
Hi, Bill.
everything. Hi, Bill. If Bill accidentally steps on someone's foot or makes a mistake at work, it's polite for him to offer sincere apology. But Apology Bill has a habit of apologizing for even the most tiny issues, or even things he wasn't responsible for. For example,
I'm so sorry I stacked that dish wrong.
or
Sorry the weather's rainy today.
the problem with Bill over-apologizing is he can make the person he's apologizing to feel guilty, irritate them, or it may just be taxing for them to frequently have to reassure him. And most of all, repeatedly saying something can render it meaningless. When Bill makes an apology, it means less because he apologizes all the time. But when a quiet person suddenly steps into a conversation and apologizes for something, it means a lot because they don't normally apologize. Let's see what our etiquette friend Julia suggests as an alternative.
If you do something wrong, offer an apology, but don't over-apologise. And if it's something you can't control or have already apologised for, you can skip the sorry.
Something I personally did to try and change this habit in myself is I would try and turn apologies into a positive. For example, if I'm late with a video, rather than saying to you, sorry my video's late, I'll generally try and say, thanks to your patience with the latest video. I got caught up in editing or writing or something like that. This leaves us both feeling better about the interaction instead of an apology. I always remember this anime called Air, where this young lady's mother died giving birth, and the daughter wants to meet her mum to apologize for her death. But her friend says, well, I'd be furious if someone came to me and said, sorry for giving birth to me. Instead, why not thank her for giving birth to you? Show that you appreciate the sacrifice. If I was dead, again, I'd appreciate a thank you more than an apology.
Did I die?
Welcome back to the land of the living.
Number
That's actually kind of true. I mean, you guys know me. I'm always apologizing for any time I'm like late for a stream or gonna have to cancel. Like, maybe I should reword that. I don't know. Do you guys mind that? Like, I'm sometimes with that work. I mean, like, my bad. Sorry. Excuse me. I don't know. I think changing the language could help, like Strider says, but definitely for me, I've been in the customer service industry, so I know, like, you gotta apologize for some things that are sometimes out of control, but you get the idea. You gotta have the customers. Anyway, moving along. Number 5.
5.
Alright, nothing else. What's next?
Leaving detailed voicemails. There was a time where voicemails were so important. In the 90s, we had answering machines, but you could never understand any of the muffled jargle people were saying on them because the sound quality was so garbage. Anyway, voicemails used to be the only way of leaving messages to people, apart from emailing someone on
nowadays you
old
could just text.
non-portable desktop computers. But from the phone, voicemails were the only way to let people know why you called them. At the time, it was polite to leave a detailed voicemail with your name and number, often repeated. It was long and arduous, and you get the picture. But in the
Annoying.
2020s, most people can't stand voicemails and consider them a waste of time. Julia, the etiquette teacher, made comment on the voicemails too.
Well, that if I ever get a long one,
Nowadays,
it's
you're
for
lucky
like...
if someone returns your call, much less listens to the whole voicemail. Texting is much more convenient, polite, and efficient.
I mean, think about it. When you
True.
see that dreaded text after accidentally missing a call saying, you have one unread voicemail, have you ever really gone, oh boy, voicemails, woohoo! Time to dial the stupid voicemail number, listen back to the time it was delivered, hear a muffled voicemail I can't decipher, and wonder who the hell actually called me? Guess I'll never know. Reader's
Very much.
Digest suggests if they don't pick up, skip the voicemail. Instead,
Yeah, that's what I do.
text or an email from your phone. It's much quicker and much more likely to be fully read by your receiver. And it's seen as way less of a bother to all of us than a voicemail. But Reader's Digest suggests don't send a wall of text either. Stay brief
Yeah.
and to the point. Nowadays, when someone
The
sees a
universal
missed
wobble.
call,
What now?
they recognize that as their cue to return the call as soon as they're able. Number 4.
True.
Showering
There's a-
someone with compliments. Just as rebuffing
So,
a compliment can
from
be
annoying
annoying,
compliments
too
to
many
just, like,
compliments can be
over.
annoying too. As we've said, a thoughtful compliment can be very kind, but lots of compliments
Oh, hi,
can
Ben.
make some people feel uncomfortable. And you've probably heard it from people before, where repeated compliments can begin to sound like flattery. And as the meme says,
Flattery is like a
It's like
smiling crocodile.
there's a fine difference
thing?
between compliments and flattery. For example, say you're a writer, and I say to you, you're a good writer. Even if I mean it, it sounds more like flattery, because my comment's undetailed and vague. But if I instead said to you, your novel's character Janice feels like a real living person. In Chapter 4, I really felt the struggle she went to when that disease affected her banana plantation. I know that's a random example, but at least that's considering the person's writing, who they are, and what they're trying to convey. You could probably come up with better, but it's a little more of a genuine compliment. But flattery is almost universally seen as disingenuous, and often it can make a person feel like they're being manipulated. Salesmen haven't helped this over the years. Whenever a salesman has tried to butter me up, I've just been like, ugh, I don't want to buy. Let's take Laura. Laura compliments her friend Clarice a lot. Laura has the best of intentions, but similar to apologizing, Laura's compliments are more valuable if she chooses them thoughtfully, and if she doesn't give them out all the time. And what's our etiquette friend Julia
So,
say on
space them out?
compliments?
Instead of over-complimenting, take a moment to consider the person and the environment. Be genuine and have open body language. Without eye contact, you might as well pay the compliment on Facebook.
Well, personally, I disagree a little with that. In my own experience, I deeply appreciate compliments from people on Facebook, YouTube comments, or any social media platform. As long as, they come from a person and not an AI. Number 3. Sharing too much personal information, aka TMI.
TMI,
it's
man.
so important to be able to trust people, and to be able to trust those special people with sensitive information is valuable.
Amen.
However, let's meet Teddy. Yes, he has
Teddy.
the name of a plush toy. Teddy likes to chat with his friend Bob. But when Teddy first met Bob, they had a rocky start. Teddy started venting with Bob about his ex-wife and how much he wanted to show he's moved on from her. Teddy wanted to show he trusts Bob with personal stories, but unfortunately this oversharing made Bob uncomfortable. Linda's acquaintance Miss Selbo also over-discloses, telling Linda about her having dreams of her ex-boyfriend and how she's just stolen his dog. If Bob, Teddy, Linda, and Selbo were all good long-time friends, this might be more normal information to share. But since they've all recently met, it's not as polite as it might seem. Let's hear from psychotherapist Dr. Moy on oversharing.
Sometimes when we overshare, we make others uncomfortable, but some people find it hard to tell when they are oversharing. They may notice the other person is pulling back a bit.
Oversharing to Bob and Linda may have offered Teddy and Miss Selbo a little relief in the moment, but they might have also felt a little embarrassment or regret later. But it's a tough balancing act, because many people are taught that it's impolite to give one-word answers when they're asked how they are. So oversharing can be a bit of overcompensation. So personally, I tend to overcompensate and give a lot more information than, fine, how are you? And I can't stand small talk and tend to assume people actually want to know how I am when they ask. Let's see what our etiquette friend Julia has to suggest instead.
Leave the personal info for your significant other and best friends. With acquaintances and personal opinions, less is more. Instead, try practicing active listening. Taking the time to listen to others before jumping to share your own experiences and decide what you're comfortable sharing and what you're not.
Oh yeah,
That
I
could
can
work.
relate to this one. Number two.
Number two?
Not bothering staff or friends. Let's extend this
That's
not just
not
to
bothering.
daily life, but to restaurants, because it works in both cases. I'm responsible for doing this one in restaurants a lot. Say you're missing utensils, you got a cold burger, a wrong order, or you're missing sauce. Whether it be fast food places or restaurants, it's generally better to let a staff member know there's a problem. It can seem polite to some people to keep quiet about problems in order to not bother others, but a lot of the time, it's better to say something than build resentment. Personally, I'm fond of the saying, transparency is better than resentment. If your friend got a wrong order, it's better they make a polite request to staff instead of having growing resentment and a small tip. When they do that, everyone's happier. They get the order they want, and the staff member gets a better tip. Win-win. Even if they can get stressed, most restaurant servers do genuinely want their customers to have a nice meal. You know, a similar thing can happen with someone we care about. For example, Nin is a true crime fan, but I don't personally care about true crime in the slightest. So say I'm sitting with Nin and she starts discussing the found frozen bodies of Everest climbers over dinner. And let's say this makes me uncomfortable. If Nin repeatedly discusses frozen bodies and I never tell her I don't like it, there's a chance I'll start to build resentment about it. But if I'm transparent that makes me dwell anxiously on my own heat-bloated corpse collapsed in a faraway Australian mountain, she'll probably understand completely. Even if she's a little hurt I don't enjoy the subject, it's much better than one of us building resentment.
I do love true crime, but I understand not everyone does.
I'll never understand people's
Communication's key.
fascination with it though. As Counsellor Christina on Marriage.com says,
Transparency builds trust. It's vital in any successful relationship.
and now an honourable mention that
Honestly, that actually makes a lot of sense. I mean, I have a trouble with that too. Like, sometimes I'll be like, ugh, God damn it, they did it again. I mean, sometimes that happened with the delivery order, and well, at that point I was like, oh boy, yep, wrong thing. Oh boy. Sometimes you gotta let them know, otherwise they're not gonna improve. Think about it. If they don't see the critiques, like, they're not gonna improve. Like, it makes sense, right? If you've seen Gordon Ramsay, like, they can't take compliments or the criticisms because they never get them. And Amy's Baking Company and a lot of stuff. Think about it. They're set in other ways. Anyway.
I got mixed results on. Guests showing up to a host's house early. Fun fact, I wanted to include this one in the video, because I'm not a big fan of it. But to be sure, I did a poll with people on my channel, and of around 11,000 votes, around 70% of people said they liked when people showed up early. So, okay, for the 18% of people like me who prefer people to actually show up when they're asked to, apparently we're in the minority.
Oh, I do this one all the time. I help friends prepare for the other guests.
Mindy.
Oh, really, hon? Do your friends like it?
Only
What?
my closest friends like
No.
it.
Well, fair enough. As we've seen in the poll results, it differs for everyone. Typically, being late for a get-together is seen as disrespectful. Some people choose to arrive early just to be on the safe side. Some people, like Nin, even offer to arrive early in order to help out. But according to
That could work.
seemingly every etiquette teacher and article I looked at, this polite habit really bugs some hosts. Just not my community, apparently. On a side note,
much.
how did it ever become a thing that arriving an hour late for a party was cool? Do you think that's cool? I don't know. Anyway, on to number one.
Do it strong.
And the number one polite habit that is actually
Yep.
really annoying.
Hold on a minute.
Offering to
What?
share a
Recording.
bite
Wait a
of food. Okay, full
Sorry.
disclosure, I'm a bit biased
few more
on
minutes,
this
okay?
one. Because
Promise.
this is one of my
5 minutes,
least favorite polite habits in the whole world. And it's most certainly
Sorry.
my least favorite habit in this video. I detest this habit so much. In the age of meningococcal, HSV1, COVID, and glandular fever, how did this ever become a thing?
But I share my food with you all the time.
Yeah, but
I mean,
you're
to
my
be fair,
wife.
I would
We
ask.
kiss regularly on the lips. There's literally no one else in the world I'd want to share a bite of food from than you.
Aw,
Well,
sweet.
how about an example of this habit?
Oh, good idea.
Okay,
Say
go
you're
ahead.
sitting with your friends and one of your friends has a delicious ice cream or cake or a drink. Their first instinct might be to share a bite or a sip with their dining friends. Because it's so delicious, surely they'd love it. And it is a very generous instinct to share a food or drink. And if it's out of a serving dish with a clean utensil, that's okay. But if someone's offering friends food off their fork or a sip out of their glass, this may make some people uncomfortable. And receivers may only say yes out of politeness, but it might secretly be rude to them. Or receivers have to come up with a polite way of saying, "I'm good, thanks." Because there's really no polite way to say to them, "No thanks, I'd rather stick to my own saliva." Either way, your friend may be
Fair.
better keeping that generous instinct contained. Perhaps instead, after asking, your friend can cut off a piece of food with the other person's knife or fork, and use the receiver's
work.
fork to hand it to them. But even then, it's iffy and I just wouldn't bother, and there's no polite way to share a straw. Unless they kiss the receiver on the mouth regularly, it may be more polite for them to keep that food or drink to themselves. And when a receiver doesn't want a bite of the friend's food, that friend really needs to let it go. You've heard it before.
Sure,
Oh, come
sure.
on, just one bite. You'll love it.
It's so good. Oh, just try a little.
I've never understood some friends attempting to peer pressure their other friends into having a bite of their food or drink. This is how viruses got around. I'm sure there's the best of intentions with that generous friend, but maybe that generous friend can instead just say, "Hey, this is delicious. Cool, mine is too." Yeah, there's really no silver bullet in being polite, is there? And what's appropriate can vary so much between people and cultures. You and I may be on other sides of the world, and I value hearing your own experience. Feel free to let me know your own experience with these polite habits in the comments below. And as always, thanks for watching, and hope to see you again next time. Today's member question.
Well, there we go. Definitely the interesting ones. I'll have to rethink. Also, sorry for the interruptions from the siblings about that. They are. But anyway, better go help them out. I'll see you guys in a bit. Adios.